Hey, church. Pastor Matt here with another church update. Last time that I reached out to you guys, I said that we would continue meeting on Zoom and then sometime in July session would chat and kind of talk about next steps. And so just wanted to update you guys on where we're at. This will be a long video. I've already recorded it and I'm re-recording it out of a generosity to you. But it's going to be long because there's a lot of ground to cover, and I really want us to have as much clarity as possible and be on the same page. So if you're a committed attender, member of CFC, please just take the time to watch the whole video. I've also made some notes for myself so I don't miss anything, but know that even if it looks like I'm reading, this is coming from the heart. So Session and I have talked, and I want to just give some background to our discussion. I would say kind of the three guiding principles that Session has had during this time is unity, clarity, and humility. Unity, our principle throughout this whole thing is how do we keep the church as unified as possible? One of the best parts about being a small church is that when we worship, we all worship together. And we want to hold on to that. We want to get as many people together as possible, and that's why we have historically been in favor of Zoom, because even if you have COVID, even if you're high risk, you can continue to worship with the body. So unity continues to be a primary driver of us trying to make the best decision that we can. Secondly, and this is a big one for me as of lately, is clarity. There are a lot of churches doing a lot of different things. We don't know what's going on or what tomorrow brings or 6 months brings. But the more that we kind of live in this uncertain state of let's try this and no, let's do this, we just kind of, we don't really get anywhere. We don't have a clear sense of who we are and what we need to do. And so my hope with this plan is that even if we don't all love it, we at least have clarity. We have the gift of saying, I know what CFC is doing for the future, and now I can do we can do that to the best of our ability. So clarity is something that I really want us to have during this time. The third thing is humility. Please recognize that during this time, there is no easy answer. There's no obvious answer. There's no silver bullet. And we as Session recognize that. We have not sat down and said flippantly, well, this is the thing to do. It's clear. We recognize just as every pastor that I've talked with and all the different things they're doing, that they say, here's all the pros and here's all the cons. Any decision we make will come with cons. And this plan that we have is no exception. There will be downsides to it. We're simply just trying to do what we feel works best for our church. Unity, clarity, humility. And lastly, I just want to stress, we've thought through a lot of options. We've prayed. I've talked with pastors. We've thought through outside worship. We've thought through inside worship. We've thought through tech needs. We've thought through Zoom. We've thought through amounts of people, different services. So we appreciate your comments and suggestions, but just know that we've wrestled through tons of different scenarios and setups and what makes the most sense. So that's me wanting just to let you know a little bit of our heart behind this plan. So what is the plan? We as a Session are not ready to be done with Zoom. I know that Zoom is not the best, most ideal option, and there's issues with it, but Zoom is unifying. Everyone can log in and we can worship together. Now, that being said, we also clearly understand the benefit of physical worship. That's why we worship physically as opposed to digitally when we're not in a pandemic. That's obviously the best option. And even with issues like wearing face masks and socially distancing and having to clean things, even in this current state, there is a benefit to physical worship, of seeing people physically, of singing with people, of responding to the message, of just scratching that extroverted need to just be with people, even if it's not the way that it used to be. So taking all of that into consideration, our plan from here on out for kind of the indefinite future until there's a major change or we feel like we hit a place where we really need to reevaluate is that once a month we will have a physical worship service the first Sunday of every month. The other weeks we will still be on Zoom. And our goal is to do physical worship to the best of our ability while still being safe, following medical experts, since we are not medical experts, and trying to be conscious of people in our church who are high risk or just are only going to come if we're following guidelines. So trying to do physical worship to the best of our abilities and constantly saying, how can we do Zoom to the best of our abilities? Trying some things like we've experimented with this past Sunday. Also, during this physical worship service, pursuing a goal of unity, our goal is to do a live stream. So for those of you that can't be there, won't be there, we're hoping to provide a live stream. So instead of a recording, you can be present with us to the best of our ability. And I'll talk more about that in a second here. So physical worship, first Sunday of the month, Zoom the other weeks. And here's the timeline. August 16th will be our first physical worship service, August 16th. And that's really going to serve as a trial run. We're going to kind of put everything together and see how it goes, and we're going to learn from it for the physical worship services in the future. And if that date seems far off to you, at this point it's only a handful of weeks away, it's only because there is a lot of work that goes into making this physical service a reality. Again, this is not going to be like our previous physical services. There's a lot of prep that goes into it, and I'll talk about that soon. So we're trying to give ourselves enough runway to make sure we do this to the best of our abilities. After August 16th, September is our first month of kind of kicking this plan into gear. So September 6th would then be our next physical worship service. And then from there on out, the first Sunday of every month will be physical worship, and Zoom will follow the other weeks. If we find out that physical worship is just awesome, then we'll try to bump it to 2 physical worship services a month. But we want to kind of start slow. We want to ease into it, and we feel like this is the best plan for now. That being said, church, we need your help to make this a reality. If you have any desire to come and be a part of physical worship, we need you to step up. The church, this time has reaffirmed that the church is not just a physical building. It's not just Pastor Matt and the leadership. It's all of us. And so we need your giftings and your talents to pull this off. The primary need that we have are tech volunteers. I still need 1, maybe 2 tech volunteers to help with Zoom on Sundays. We're getting by, but we could use more help, and I can train you on that. Our computer in the sanctuary is dead. We need to buy a new one. We need to transfer data and files from the previous one to the new one. I don't know how to do that, so we need someone that's wise in that. I have a streaming platform recommended, but have not yet played with it. So we need people to try that out, to learn how it works. We need people to run the technology for the streaming service the day of. We need to figure out what sort of a camera we need. What's the best way of, getting video and audio through the streaming platform to those of you who will be watching the service from home. If you have any background in tech or anything, we need you. Reach out to me, and reach out to me soon, because we need to get the ball rolling. We also need health and wellness volunteers. We need to collect a certain amount of masks, hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes. I think it makes sense to have one person that's kind of asking people to donate for that. But also, we need probably 4 or 5 volunteers for the physical worship services who will say, hey, I'll stick behind and I'll wipe down surfaces, I'll wipe down equipment, I'll wipe down whatever needs to be wiped down. We need people to help with cleaning. That's the specific volunteers we need. Reach out to me ASAP if you can help with that. Lastly, again, going back to clarity, my goal is not, I know a lot of us are going to not like this plan. We've polled the church, and we are all over the spectrum, which means that we get to practice grace with one another, which is awesome because that's a principle of our Christian faith. But in saying, here's the plan, part of the benefit is to go, whether I love it or I don't like it, I know what to expect. And now we can start saying, how do we be the church to the best of our abilities? And I've been thinking about that through the lens of our Acts 2 Devoted series in terms of word, fellowship, prayer, and service. How do we do those 4 things in the middle of this pandemic to the best of our abilities? I think we're doing an okay job of Word. We could always do better, but we've got study questions, small groups that are meeting. Bob Chafee, let's take a second to thank him for collecting prayer requests and sending out the weekly prayer email, because he's killing it. He's working hard. But and you make sure you reach out to him and you thank him. But I want more prayers. Let us know your prayer requests. I want people reaching out to people in the church to gather prayer requests. Reach out to me if you're interested in helping with that initiative. I'm talking with people right now in our church about how we can pursue more acts of service in our community. If you're interested in brainstorming that and helping push that, reach out to me. And finally, fellowship. Probably the thing that we are pining for more than anything. One idea that Session has had, in addition to small groups, which everyone should be seeking out, is doing some sort of a fellowship event on our front yard, maybe on a weekly basis, every other week. That's kind of a loose get together, maybe bring a dinner, picnic, or we can hang out and play cornhole, whatever. Just kind of getting people together, seeking to loosely practice social distancing and being safe and smart, but just providing for fellowship opportunities at the church outside. If you're interested in talking about that or helping with that, reach out to me. If you can help with tech, wellness, or any of these categories I've just listed, reach out. Let's build some teams. Let's allow our church to thrive in the midst of this kind of crazy time. Last two things, which I'll try to be quick. There are lots of precautions in place for our worship service. The big ones will be socially distancing. Masks will be required at all times. Scott and I will be the only people that will not be wearing a mask, only when he sings and I preach, and that's only because we'll be behind like a plexiglass cover. That's the plan right now. But masks will be required, social distancing. We will not have children's programming. All of these things are handed down to us by the government to protect us. We're thinking right now, I'm trying to work with Emily on what can we do to help kids to be less of a distraction during the service, but kids would sit with families. We may have potential for kids under 4, maybe doing something outside. Again, we're processing through that, but we need to, just want to let you know that will be the reality, that kids will most likely be sitting with families. Also, we will have a max of 50 people. That's also handed down by the government, but I also don't think we can fit more than 50 people in our church service practicing social distancing guidelines. And then obviously we'll be cleaning. We need to stay out of classrooms. We come in, we go directly to the sanctuary. At the end of the service, we have to leave immediately. So those are some of the precautions. My hope is that in the next week or two, we will have a sign-up sheet for the physical services saying, hey, I'll be there, this many people, probably this many chairs. And when that fills up, then it's full. And if you don't make it for that service, we'll bump you up to a priority for the next physical service. But when that's released, I'll make sure to list all of the precautions that we'll be taking for physical worship. And again, we're doing that because we're not medical experts. We're doing our best to trust the medical experts and what they're telling us. We're trying to be obedient to the government, as Romans 13 reminds us to do. And we're trying to show love and respect to those inside and outside the church. This is still a disease that is killing people, and we want to be sensitive to that. There are people that are young even that are trying to be careful because they interact with people that are high risk. So, and some of you have said, I want to come, but only if we're following guidelines. So there's a lot of reasons why we're doing this. Lastly, finally, I just want to end by saying, you've elected me to this job. You've elected Session to this job. And I just want to stress that we are finite humans who make mistakes and are sinful. And we've spent a lot of time talking about this and praying about this and looking at the options. And so I'm just going to ask you to show us some grace, trust us that we've wrestled with this, we've prayed about it, and we care about you and we care about worshiping God. So I just ask for your grace and your trust in us during this time. That being said, if you have questions, because even in this 15-minute video, I've not covered everything, reach out and I'll do my best to answer. Reach out to someone from Session. If you have serious objections, stuff on your conscience, reach out. Let's be as unified as possible during this time. But we're here to listen, and we're here to talk with you even as we kind of move forward with this plan. So, church, that's all I have for us today. I pray that you would just kind of sit on this, digest it for a little bit, and let's pray that God would unify our church and help us to be the church to the best of our ability during this strange and confusing time. Let's pursue clarity, and let's pursue God and love for one another. More information to come in the weeks ahead, but that's it for now. So take care. Love you all. Praying for you, and God bless.